Big, big Premier League weekend, big Northern London derby between Tottenham and Arsenal. What are your thoughts and takeaways from the game?
Yes, it was a big fixture for Arsenal. London derbies usually are. Coming into this fixture, the big question, of course, was whether Arsenal could cope with the loss of two very influential players in the likes of Odegaard and Declan Rice being unavailable due to injury and suspension. And I believe that Arsenal answered that question relatively emphatically. In the absence of Odegaard and Rice, obviously much of the creativity and the dynamism in the midfield, that free-flowing football that Arsenal are known for, was never going to be on show. Instead, Arteta set up Arsenal in a sit deep in a low block to frustrate Spurs and to look to opportunities on the counter. And with that game plan in mind, it was executed pretty much flawlessly. The back line, in fact, the whole team worked as a cohesive unit. With that back line, being pretty much impenetrable. Stellar performances from Gabriel, from Saliba, of course, and very, very honorable mention to Jurriën Timber, who was looking like, the missing piece to I guess you can call it an already solved puzzle, seeing that Arsenal already had the best defense last season. But anyway, Arsenal submitted a disciplined, resolute performance that not only shows their ability, but also their willingness to grind out victories. Arteta's, opted for a substance over style approach. I think the lessons they learned from this game will serve them well over a long and tough season. Having said that, and I mean, no disrespect to Spurs, but Arsenal should be beating Spurs. It's not as if Spurs have started particularly well this season. They're not in blistering form, and if Arsenal's ambitions are to dethrone City, they have to be as good. In fact, they have to be better than City. And no one would be surprised if City come to Tottenham with a couple of players missing and get the 3 points. So it should be the same for Arsenal if that's their ambition to be the champs at the end of the season. So a good result, one that was necessary to sustain this title challenge. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. I think Arsenal really showed the ability to stay organized and structured, great discipline. Arteta only probably had a few days to drill the team because of the international break prior. So I was very impressed, and I thought Timber, for me, was man of the match, actually. Not even honorable mention, but better than that. Very, very encouraged by what I see if I were an Arsenal fan. However, they do have City coming up on Sunday, away fixture, and we do think Odegaard is going to be out for that match. So I think that will be the true test, as you said. Tottenham, a team that Arsenal should beat. So mission accomplished, but the real test is next week.
I would agree with that, but it sets up the stage nicely for, a very, very intense battle between the two. I guess you could call them favorites at the moment. Of course, Liverpool will have their say as well. But very much looking forward to how that matchup on the weekend pans out.
So, what are you thinking in terms of a prediction? Are you willing to say that Arsenal will get points on the road to City?
Given City's form, the personnel availability of Arsenal at the moment, I'm not very optimistic. Judging from this performance, it would not shock me if a similar approach is taken. They go there to set up shop and with the intent to try to steal something on the break. However, Erling Haaland is just he's unstoppable, and it will be very difficult. Even though we have the best defense in the league, it will be very difficult to stop him. So that will be the test. It will have to be another stellar defensive performance from Arsenal. That goes without saying. Can they get 3 points at City? It's doubtful, very doubtful.
Yeah, I would agree. If I had to predict, I would say maybe 2-1 Man City. I think Arsenal will have to go and park the bus, and it'll be a very difficult game for them, especially with Jorginho and Partey in the middle, not having the mobility required to keep up with the likes of Doku and Savinho, so on and so forth. We know they're on the wing, but the center midfielders need to be able to move across the pitch and really snuff out the danger wherever it is. And I just don't see that Arsenal will have the personnel to be able to do that. But it should be a very exciting contest and one that I'm looking forward to, this upcoming weekend.
Bear in mind that Declan Rice should be back for that fixture, so he's going to start into the midfield. So we'll see what Arteta does in terms of configuring that midfield to stem the offensive threat. But having Declan Rice will be a big addition, something that Arsenal sorely missed in the last game, just in terms of having that dynamism, that tenacity in the midfield, and a little bit of creativity as well. So he'll be a welcomed addition to the squad.
Agreed. And there you have it. Our take on Arsenal from this past weekend, and obviously looking forward to the matchup with Manchester City on the weekend.
So we're back again, the second segment. Premier Bros coming at you. We've had a bit of a pause watching Champions League games, but now we're getting back, to what we know and love. That's the Premiership, Premier League, to be more precise. We're 4 game weeks into the Premier League, early days, of course, but we've had an opportunity to see what the teams have on offer thus far. Squads are set, at least until the January transfer window. So at this juncture, I know it's early days, but I'm curious, Chad, how do you see that top 4 Premier League race shaping up?
Right, top 4 is always the main topic. We know the top 4 qualify for the Champions League in the following season. And with the top 4 this year, I don't think it's going to be much different from the top 4 of last season, at least with the top 3. Right now, based on current form and squad size, squad quality, ability, so on and so forth, City look like the most likely champions for this season as well. That would be 5 on the trot. So we'll see if they're able to achieve that incredible feat. And then Arsenal, Liverpool, second and third and second. I think at this point of the season, it's a little bit early to say which one of them will finish above the other. But I don't think it's too early to say that they're the front runners for the top 3, and they're most likely to hit that place at the end of the season. Really, in my opinion, when we think about the top 4, the discussion or the debate resides within that race for that 4th spot. Right now, based on current results and also what the teams were able to accomplish in the transfer market in terms of building, the expansiveness and depth of their squads, there are a number of teams in the running for the 4th spot. Just to rattle off the names that I would consider in the running: Newcastle, Brighton, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Man United. Based on current form, I would think that one would have to say it's probably Newcastle. Maybe one could argue Aston Villa, given that both teams have 3 wins. Newcastle, on the other hand, is actually unbeaten, 3 wins and 1 draw. Aston Villa, 3 wins and 1 loss, but very, very close in the table. Newcastle looks like a squad that's reinvigorated. We know that they had an injury crisis last season when they were in the Champions League, and they really struggled balancing the demands, let's say, of the Premier League versus the Champions League. But this year, they don't have European competition. They have Anthony Gordon fit, Isak is fit, Harvey Barnes looks like he wants to contribute. Tonali is back from the suspension from last season. So I would say, based on current form, Newcastle would be my pick to grab that 4th spot. Now, when I think about some other factors like what happened in the transfer window, how is the club set up to succeed, I think you have to bring Manchester United into that conversation as well. They had a very, very strong transfer window,
Mm.
in my opinion, bringing in 5 players from the front line with Joshua Zirkzee to the back line with Elena Euro, who's injured now, but hopefully will get better sooner than later. And that's me being a little bit selfish as a Manchester United supporter. But net, what I'm saying about Manchester United, I really think they've improved their squad. And when I look at their first 11, I think it can edge out not only Newcastle, but the likes of Aston Villa, Brighton, um, and Chelsea, not only because of the squad quality, but because of the expectation of the team, of the fans, and of the new ownership group. We know that Ineos came in, right, took over footballing operations late last season, and they're really, really on it in terms of trying to bring the club to the next level. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I see the race, shaping up a bit differently come the end of the season. We talk about Manchester United, so that was your last point. I'll start there. Even with the new signings that they've made, I don't see a dramatic improvement in the quality. I still don't know who Manchester United is after 4 games. Well, to be honest with you, after two seasons under Ten Hag. I think, if you look back at the last 2 seasons, they finished 3rd and 8th. So there's a huge variance in their performances under Ten Hag, and this illustrates the problem I see with United at the moment is that inconsistency. Inconsistency in the performances, in the results, the style of play, the identity. It's even with the new ownership, not much has changed. They brought in a few players, decent players. I just don't see that jump in quality to indicate that they would do much better than last season. I look at Chelsea, and there's a lot of chaos, of course, at that club. It seems like they've also invested very, very heavily this summer, in what I can only view as an erratic transfer policy. Nevertheless, they've made extensive investments, and with the array of talent they have at their disposal, at some point they will become a formidable force. Of course, the challenge now for the manager is to get all those players into a cohesive unit, get them on the same page, and naturally, of course, with such a large squad to quell that inevitable discontent from players not knowing if they're starting and not even knowing if they're playing. So it's a huge undertaking, but I think if Maresca is able to get these guys on the same page, they're going to be there or thereabouts, come the end of the season. My personal pick at the moment is Villa. I think Villa they're a very good side, well balanced, great attacking options. With your main man, Ollie Watkins, of course.
I rate him, definitely.
Duran coming off the bench, and he's looking at the moment like he's going to have a breakout season. They brought in Onana to play alongside Tielemans. Patriots will play together for the national team alongside each other in the midfield. So they'll have the opportunity to develop a lot of chemistry, and I just see that boding very well for Aston Villa throughout the season. I see Villa. Of course, sorry, not to mention the management. I look at Unai Emery, an experienced, successful, accomplished manager who's been there a few seasons now and has taken them to that next level, has been able to imprint his identity on the club. The players have a clear directive. They know what they're doing on the pitch. They're organized. So I just see Villa as the most likely of those teams to be consistent throughout the season and repeat last season's performance and get that 4th spot.
I can understand your viewpoint. The one thing I would say about Aston Villa is that this is their first time back in the Champions League, I think, since 1982. And I think it will take some of their energy out during those midweek games and leave them a little bit, let's say, tired going into those weekend games in the Premier League, and it could affect the results. And for that reason, I'm less bullish on Aston Villa than I would be, let's say, a Newcastle who don't have any European competition and will be fresh every single weekend. With that said, I know United has European competition, but Europa League, you're able to sort of balance the emphasis on that competition versus the Premier League. Obviously, the Premier League takes precedence, and I think Ten Hag should be able to manage that appropriately throughout the season.
Fair point. My response to that is that Unai Emery, I think he's one of the most winning coaches in Europe. So he knows, certainly in European competition, he's won it 4 times. More than any other manager.
Europa League, that is.
Aston Villa, Europa League,
right.
Yeah. Aston Villa were also in the Europa League. They made the semifinals last year, and were still able to achieve success in the Premier League. So, I think they have enough experience to cope with a campaign on both fronts. And I just see the team as a very, very strong and very well balanced team. We'll see how this pans out over the course of the season. But that's our view now. We look ahead to a very intense weekend where the big game, of course, is the Arsenal Man City game. And we'll have our thoughts on that in the near future.